Are you thinking about retiring in the next 6 months? Well, if you are, then this will probably be the first time you've ever done anything like that. Make sure you listen to my entire show today as I'm going to uncover 5 things you need to do before you retire. It's all coming up next. So stick around. Good morning. I am David Hollander, your host, and this is Protect Your Assets. For those of you just tuning in for the first time, welcome. People around here, they call me the Sandman. That's because I help my listeners sleep well at night by answering their most troubled tax, legal, and financial questions every single week right here. That's because I manage a tax, legal, and financial firm and been doing it for over 30 years. You can always email me a question. Anytime something comes up you want to know what to do, email me. Send it to questions@pyaradio.com. Again, questions@pyaradio.com. Listen, doing something for the first time, something you've never done before, it can be thrilling, but it can also be terrifying. I'm not talking about skydiving. I'm talking about going from work life to retirement life. And that's what we're going to discuss today, specifically how to make transitioning into retirement a lot less scary. So keep it right here as we discuss the 5 ways to help make retiring less tiring or terrifying. There we are. Good morning. All right, let's get started. Well, it's been a volatile week. It's certainly exciting with all the politics and news going on. Dow was up this week, if you can believe it. It was up almost 1%. S&P off 0.8%. The NASDAQ dropped again, down 2.1%. NASDAQ and S&P are pretty close right now year to date. S&P's up 14.5%. NASDAQ up 15.6%. Seems like all the tech darlings are falling apart. MSCI EAFE index down 1.5% for the week. Treasuries flat, 4.19 on the 10-year. Oil at $76.84 a barrel. And bonds up a little bit, around $98.32. So despite all the news we had coming out this week about the election and what's coming and volatility that goes along with it, we continue. Well, overall, if you look at the economy, it's pretty healthy. We just got our second quarter GDP numbers coming out this past week. It was up 2.8%. Market went down pretty good a couple days there, and then it rallied back. All right, at the start, we talked about retiring, and there's 5 things you need to know if you're going to retire, say, in the next 6 months. And so I'm going to go through these, and I'd like you to make some notes because you need to take care of these things. So the first thing you want to do to make sure that you're ready to go is to look at your investments and the efficiency of those investments that are going to pay you in retirement. What do I mean by that? Well, I would recommend that you have your financial advisor, your CPA, review your tax return with you before you retire. And you may say, well, I usually do that in, March or April when I do my taxes. Don't do that. Pick up the phone now, call your tax person or your financial advisor and say, hey, I want to look at my tax return with you. I want to look at the Schedule B. I want to see where my dividends are coming from. I want to see what they're costing me in terms of taxes. And then you want to think about, is there a way to make that more efficient? The second thing is you want to plan to convert any of those taxable dividends or taxable withdrawals from your IRAs, convert those to tax-free if, when you do the analysis, it looks like you're going to have more money that you can keep when you look at the net result after the taxes. So if you have more money at the end of the day, because tax-free is better for you right now, then you want to be shifting into that right now, particularly when rates are pretty good. You can lock those rates in for longer. The next thing you want to do is look at your RMD. So when you turn 73, you're going to have to take your required minimum distribution. That's mandatory. You have no choice about that. So now's a great time before you retire to figure out, well, how much could that be? And then what can I do about it? Should I take it right now? Should I wait and take it when I turn 73? We have tools that we use that can actually model that. And you can say, well, maybe that's too much. I don't need that much. And so I'm going to start converting it now, maybe to things like Roth IRAs. Maybe I'm going to start buying some things that'll pay me tax-free income in 5 or 6 years from now. So it's called just getting in front of that RMD that's coming your way, just getting more efficient in your strategy. And then Also, as part of that, I'm sure you have a will and a trust. You probably did all that. But look at estate taxes right now, too. Those are pretty high. And there's some things you can do right now to pass on assets to your kids and your family and your spouse in a way more tax efficient way while rates are high. So look at that, too. Talk to an attorney, estate planning attorney, maybe a CPA when you're talking about that as well. All right. So this morning, we are talking about the 5 ways to help make retiring less terrifying before you enter it. Coming up next, the next one's going to have to do with your income. Because let's face it, if your income's not there, you're not going to live the retirement of your dreams. So why is it one of the most complicated things you need to prepare for? You'll find out when I come back. You are listening to the Protect Your Assets show with David Hollander. That's me. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I am David Hollander, also known as the Sandman, and you're listening to Protect Your Assets this morning. People around here, they call me the Sandman because I help my listeners sleep well at night by answering their most troubled tax, legal, and financial questions each week. And that's because I've been running a tax, legal, and financial planning firm for over 30 years. If you're just joining right now, we've been talking about the 5 ways to help make retirement less terrifying. Let's face it, if you're thinking about going from your work life to your retirement life in the next 6 months, then you need to know what you need to do before you get there, hopefully. And that's what we're covering today, specifically how to make the transition into retirement a lot less scary. Now, the last segment, if you missed it, I was talking about tax-efficient investment strategies. Now we're going to shift over to the second segment. I'll call it income and risk management. So income 1, risk management, in this case, number 3, 1, 2, 3. Why am I talking about this? Past Thursday, Jim dropped into our Larkspur office. He was walking down the street. He just came walking in. I happened to be sitting back there, and we sat down together, and we were looking over this retirement plan that we've been building him for a while. And you see, Jim, he wants to retire next year. And even though we put this whole plan together, he still had a lot of questions. His biggest concern, what was keeping him up at night, was where will the paychecks come from each month next year when he actually leaves work? You see, Jim's been working for the same company for 25 years. Jim's company was bought by a larger company, and it's pretty obvious that his role at his current company is going to be replaced by somebody at the new company. In fact, they've almost told him that outright several times. So, Jim loves his job, and he's thinking about leaving work before they tell him you're done. And he's thinking it's probably going to be in the next 6 months. So as we were talking about this, Jim's biggest question was this: do I have enough money right now to retire? And so I get this question a lot from people. But the answer to the question is usually followed by another question from me, which is, what are you going to do in retirement, Jim? So for many people, the identity of what they do at work, it's really wrapped up in what they do. That's where they see themselves. It's hard to think about, what am I going to do if I'm not doing that anymore? About the structure of the workday. It's not uncommon for people to somewhat get lost in retirement, and I found that to be especially true for clients who own their own businesses. So your retirement's going to be a lot more gratifying if you're retiring to something rather than retiring from something. Does that make sense? So my first recommendation to Jim was to spend the next several months, before he actually tells him he's done, to think about what he wants to do in retirement. And so we went over some of these ideas. You may have heard the show last week. If you missed it, the traveling show, then go check out the podcast wherever you get your podcast. Just type in Protect Your Assets Travel, and you'll hear all my tips there from all my clients and places we visited. Are you going to spend more time with your family? What will that actually look like? Will you have to move someplace to be closer to them? Maybe you'll have to rent a place for a little bit of time to be near them, to help them be part of their lives. Will you take up golf? How about tennis? Or maybe you'll start to volunteer at something that means a lot to you. Like maybe in Jim's case, he said it. I want to coach a lacrosse team. Well, good for you, Jim. Do those kind of things. Or maybe you can just stop doing what you don't like doing and start doing what you love to do and find that that's a lot of fun. And, some people actually set up their own companies like LLCs and then start consulting with all the stuff they really know. They find out, wow, there's a lot of business out there that could benefit from what I know. And I don't mind working a few hours a week, helping people doing things. So all of a sudden now you have some more income and you get some more write-offs now because it's your own LLC. Well, maybe you want to go into boat racing. I don't know. Whatever it is, these things all cost money. So go through that first and then figure out what it's going to cost. So typically the next thing we do is we put together a budget for all the necessary expenses that you have. And then I would call these discretionary, like the golf club membership and things like that. But, they're important. Then you should look at your income sources. What do I mean by that? You want to write down exactly how much Social Security income you're going to have. He gets one, she gets one. There's many ways to take it. How are you going to do that? So write that down. Next, your pension. How are you going to take that? If you have rental properties, you need to go through those properties, particularly if one of you is more involved than the other. You both should get involved in it. You both should understand the money that's coming off of that, what's required to run it. And then any other income sources, write those down. Know where they're coming from, know how they're going to be taxed. Then you want to look at your accounts. You have accounts at different places. How are you going to start to take that money out? Like what if the stock market stops to drop? This is where you want to be flexible. This is where you want to have what I call the risk management section. So remember, the first was tax efficiency. Second, right now we're talking about income. Part of that income is your risk management. How much risk are you taking with those particular investments? You want to analyze that. You want to look at that risk, and maybe that's not the right risk for your short-term money. If you need this in the next 5 years, maybe you're taking way too much risk with that one stock you own. Now, after that, you want to take an inventory of all of your liabilities, your debt, like what? Your mortgages. I got this question this week. Someone had a mortgage coming due in about 2 years. It was interest only, and they were asking me, should I go ahead and refi it now? No, you don't want to do that. Because rates are still high. And the Fed's already said they're going to lower rates quite a bit over the next 2 years. So if I were you, I'd wait till the Fed gets real close to what they said, which is 2 points lower from where we are now. That's when you want to start talking about refining. Do you have auto loans? Make sure you write those down. So again, your mortgage, your auto loans, your insurance policies. This was a big one. We had a client this past week. She had her fire insurance on her house and she forgot to make the payment. It wasn't on an auto pay. She forgot to make the payment and they canceled her. They just said, sorry, we're done. We're not insuring your house anymore. And now she can't get insurance and her house is paid off. She doesn't have a mortgage, but it's paid off and she's looking for insurance. This happens. So especially in California right now, a lot of insurance companies aren't wanting to write policies on homes. So don't do that. Make sure you set them up on auto pay, keep paying the premiums, and you might want to start looking to see if that company is solvent. Check out their records, see if they're fighting people on claims. Because yes, it's good to have insurance, but if they're going to fight and not pay the claim, maybe you should get another insurance company. So you might want to be looking at that right now. Credit cards. This is the one I see all the time. You have some cards you don't talk about, right? Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? The bill's going to arrive and then someone's going to say, well, what is this? I don't know. So make sure you have a list of all your credit card debt, like who your credit cards are with. If you don't know too, I see this a lot. You pull your credit score and you say, oh, I forgot I had that card. So pull your credit, look at all the cards that are associated with your name. Maybe you want them, maybe you don't. And maybe now's a good time to cancel them and get rid of them. Because you don't want to be running around with cards that somebody else gets a hold of and starts using it. And then you say, well, what's that all about? So start looking at that and make an inventory of all that because you're going to need to know this when you're in retirement and you're trying to figure out where's the paychecks going to come from. Are you dreaming of retiring in the next 6 months? Well, if so, then I'm going to make it easy for you right now. Now, there's 5 things you need to know. Coming up next is time for our popular They Say segment, where they say once you leave your company, COBRA is automatic. It's going to cover you. Is this true? And where should you get your medical and health care in retirement? You don't want to miss this one. You're listening to Protect Your Assets with David Hollander. That's me. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I am David Hollander, also known as the Sandman, and you are listening to Protect Your Assets this morning. People around here, they call me the Sandman because I help my listeners sleep well at night by talking about taxes, legal and financial questions each week. That's because I've been running a tax, legal, and financial planning firm for over 30 years. Are you dreaming of the perfect retired life? Are you hoping to retire sooner rather than later? Well, if you are, then you've tuned into the right place this morning because we're talking about the 5 ways to help make retiring less terrifying. So what are those 5? Well, if you missed the first part of the show, number 1 is tax-efficient strategies. Number 2 is looking at your income. Number 3 is risk management. And now we're going to get to number 4, which is something you definitely need to think about. So let's talk about it. Now it's time for one of our fan favorite parts of our show, our They Say segment, where we debunk common myths and half-truths, sometimes just bad advice that they say. All right, so this ties nicely to number 4, which is your medical. Here's one they say. They say that once you leave your company, COBRA will cover you. Is this really true? And where should you get your health care in retirement? Great question. It really depends on your age for this one. So yes, COBRA most likely will cover you. But what if you're over 65? Is there any other options you might have? Well, let's get into it. If you're retiring and let's say you're under 65, then you should have a plan before you retire for any major medical condition that could pop up. This is typically where COBRA will come in because COBRA will cover, say, some sort of catastrophic cost at the hospital if that were to pop up once you leave your employer. Now, after you're 65, you should know this, you're eligible for Medicare. Now, let's say you're working and you're over 65 and you haven't thought really much about this. I recommend you call Medicare now because even though you're working, you want to let them know that you want to activate your Medicare, but you're still working and you're going to use your current job insurance to cover you. If you're over 65 and you've been let go or you're going to retire, then still, I'd like you to go ahead and contact Medicare immediately and sign up for it. Now, you're going to have a lot of different options with Medicare. I've done an entire show on Medicare. It's very complex and complicated. So if you want to really dig into Medicare and what all your options are today, because they change all the time, then you can go listen to my podcast on Medicare. Again, that's where you get your podcast, type in Protect Your Assets, type in Medicare, and then the show will pop up and you can listen to that one as well. It's going to cost you something every month. It's not going to be free. So make sure that you know what your out-of-pocket expense is going to be. And if you have any pre-existing medical conditions, make sure you talk to your agent about those because there's many different types of policies. Some will help you. Some will not help you. They'll cost you more money. So it's important you know that when you start to look at the plan that's best for you. The next thing I would recommend you do, particularly while you're still working, because remember, we're talking about those who are thinking about retiring, is if you haven't done this yet, I would recommend you set up a health savings account. This is called an HSA. Now, this is something that many people don't do. And I've seen many people do it and they do it wrong. What do I mean by that? I don't recommend you use that money now for your deductibles or your premiums or anything related to healthcare, even though that's what it's for. And a lot of people think that's what it's meant to do. No, think about it. Did you know you can invest that money in the stock market? And think about letting it sit there for 5, 10, 15 years, 20 years from now when you're going to need it for real long-term care in the future. If it's compounding and growing tax-free, That could be a nice little chunk of change you can then withdraw later tax-free. That won't hit your income. So I recommend you take a look at a health savings account now, set it up, start to fund it, and then figure out how you can link that to a brokerage account. And then you move the money right online over to the brokerage account, and then you buy your favorite S&P 500 fund, okay? Or a growth fund that you're going to leave for there for a long time. And that's how you do it. So if you have questions about that, to turn that sort of growth and income into tax-free money you can use for long-term care, give us a call. 808-5627. Call right now. We'll be happy to help you. The next thing you need to think about, which really can derail you, which can go on for a while, is long-term care. Long-term care and any nursing care needs, these are things that can wipe you out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and give you my new updated chapter 7 of my book, Protect Your Assets, this morning. We can email that over to you, where you can read all the ways to pay for this and what's available today with all the changes that just happened, because this stuff updates too every year. And we just updated my book, chapter 7, which covers the 5 ways to pay for long-term care. This can be really expensive and go on for a long time. It can get really, really, really expensive. Like what? Well, we had a client recently here in the Bay Area who wanted to stay at home. And it was really important for him to be able to stay in his living room and be able to use his bedroom and have breakfast at his table. And all these things were important to him. And then he started to look at the cost of something like that because he didn't want to put it all on his wife. She couldn't pick him up. She couldn't bathe him. These kind of things that are just functional, practical, she couldn't do. So they started looking around to hire someone to come in and help them do that and be available. So she didn't have to do it all. And $4,000, $5,000, $8,000 a month, these costs just keep going up and up and up. The more hours you do, the more it costs. And so it's not unreasonable to see $10,000 to $12,000 a month right now here in the Bay Area to make that happen. So think about that. Make sure you have the funds available and you know where you're going to tap it to use it. And if you're able to right now because you're still working, maybe your work has some sort of a long-term care plan you can buy and it's affordable now. And so that could be something you use in the future. Now, also make sure if you do that, that it's portable. Ask them if it's portable, meaning that when you retire, you can take it with you and you can keep paying for it and it'll be there for you. Because I've seen this happen a lot where you think you have long-term care, it is covered at work, then you leave and they say, sorry, that's not available to you anymore. And then you're not in the shape you were in when you were doing this and now it's much more expensive. So, or you can't even get it. This happens too. So make sure you check it out and check that box because the last thing you want to do is be going through retirement. You're having a great time. Everything's great. Something pops up out of nowhere. Now you got to deal with it. And maybe it's going to be longer term. And it really gets sticky and nasty fast. All right. So again, if you find any of this helpful, imagine what we can do if we custom tailor advice to you. Because if you boil it down at the Liberty Group, we want to help protect you and your money and your family from this sort of stuff that can come. Keep it tuned right here because when we come back, we're going to share how not considering this last issue could force you to wind up regretting retirement. The answers are coming up next. It always pays you to keep it tuned right here. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm David Hollander, also known as the Sandman, and you are listening to Protect Your Assets this morning. If you have a question, 808-5627. People around here call me the Sandman because I help my listeners sleep well at night by answering their most troubled tax, legal, and financial questions each week. And that's because I run a tax, legal, and financial firm. Been doing it for over 30 years. Today, we're talking about getting ready for retirement. If you're about 6 months away, there's 5 things you need to do To make retirement less terrifying. So we've been covering those this morning. The first was the tax efficient strategy. Second was income planning. Where's it going to come from? And with that, reducing your risk. And this last segment, we were talking about medical, healthcare, things like that you need to know. And this last one, we'll call it the advanced financial planning segment. So if you missed any of the show, we're talking about the 5 ways to make retiring less terrifying. And according to the Employee Benefit Research Institute, 46% of retired households spend more annually in the first 2 years of retirement than they did just before they retired. Almost half. Think about that. You could end up spending more in retirement than you're spending right now. Add to that, there's no more paychecks coming in and no more health insurance. So hopefully you've already started to think about this if you are going to retire in the next 6 months. What's number 5? Number 5 on the list is the advanced financial plan. And before the break, I said this one thing could hurt you in retirement, make you regret it even. What am I talking about? I'm talking about a power of attorney. I recommend that you review your estate plan. You know that binder you stuck away in the closet years ago? Well, pull it out and make sure it's updated at least every 3 years. And if you're about to go into retirement, now's a great time to get it updated. You want to take a look at that power of attorney because that's going to give somebody you designate the authority to help you if one day you wake up and you can't help yourself and the bill's got to get paid. You don't want that to happen. You don't want your fire insurance to get canceled because you forget to pay the premium. So make sure those documents, your will, your trust, your power of attorney, that they're all up to date because I call those living documents. They're going to help you while you're alive. Sure, they do things when you die, but what if you live? What if you live with some illness? Make sure those documents are set. What's the next thing you want to look at for your advanced financial planning? Take a look and understand your fees. What kind of fees are you paying your advisor? You want to know specifically. Don't be afraid. Ask him or her. What are we paying you? How does that work? Where can I see it? Have a full understanding of how those fees come out of your portfolio and who's paying them and how they affect your account. Also, make sure that before you retire that you review all the accounts with your financial advisor. You want to understand where the money specifically each month is going to come out. Sit down with them and go through that. And then also make sure that if you make any adjustments to your estate plan, hopefully you're using an attorney who specializes in that. And the thing I would recommend you ask them is, do you have experience with administration of estates? Meaning that when you're not here, that's when the documents actually come into place and you want someone knowing what to do with those documents. How do you actually administer estates? I happen to look at these sort of things at least once a week where we're talking about a game plan with someone's assets and how we're going to distribute it and where we're going to put it and how he or she is going to use it, how the kids might get it. All that stuff is important. You want to talk about it before it's too late. And I know many of you wait until it's too late and you let your family deal with it. And that's not responsible. And that's not the right thing to do because it's going to end up costing them a lot more anxiety, taxes, grief, fees, all that kind of stuff. So help them help themselves. And I recommend that you coordinate your tax person, your financial advisor, and your attorney together so they sort of all know what's going on, because I find that a lot of different offices don't know certain things about what you have or what you're doing or what your intentions were. And then again, it's too late. So I call this the advanced financial planning. And I would call this number 5 if you're making the list here this morning, and write that down and make sure that your plan does these sort of things. And if it doesn't, well, go listen to the show again. And you just check it off, make sure you're doing it right. I'd like to give a big thanks to the Protect Your Assets team this morning for putting together another great show. Executive producer, network manager, Kevin Renfer, and his sidekick there right now, Lee Hammer. Thank you, Lee. And all my fabulous producers back there helping me out. Dylan, Lucas, Raph. Thanks, guys. Because without my team, I'm just another pretty voice on the radio. You've been listening to the Protect Your Assets Show. I am David Hollander, the Sandman. Go out and make the rest of your life the best of your life.